The second week of testing in Bahrain, day 2, not only changed the timesheet, the climate in the paddock changed. Ferrari wasn't just fast. Ferrari was disruptive. When everyone expected another day of low-key simulations and conservative programs, the SF26 appeared with an aerodynamic concept that no one had shown publicly, and that, to the surprise of many, not only worked, it was intimidating. Is this just a good day of testing? Or has Ferrari just revealed the weapon that can completely alter the balance of power in 2025? Because what happened in Sakhir was not an isolated fast lap. It was volume of work, it was consistency, it was aggressive innovation, and it was a direct message to its rivals. And when a team combines all three things in the middle of the preseason, that is no longer a coincidence. Day 2 of the second week in Bahrain began without media noise, but with a different feeling in the paddock. Ferrari did not arrive as the team that needed to impress with a fast lap. It came as the team that needed to validate something much bigger. From the first outings on the track, it was clear that the program was not superficial. It was not a day for immediate headlines, it was a day to confirm that the SF26's aggressive concept could be sustained under real load. The morning session was methodical. Ferrari divided the work clearly: direct comparison between aerodynamic configurations, energy efficiency analysis, and evaluation of the car's behavior in medium runs. What was relevant was not the absolute lap time, but the stability of the pace. At a circuit like Sakhir, where thermal degradation can expose any structural weaknesses, the SF26 showed something few expected: poise. There were no constant sudden corrections, there were no unpredictable oversteers on corner exit, and above all there was no that fragility typical of extreme concepts. While other teams continued testing adjustment windows, Ferrari seemed to already be working on refinement. And that phase difference is key. Because when a team goes from understanding the car to optimizing it in the second week of testing, it means that its technical base is validated. But the real focus was not on the long runs. It was in the back of the car. The famous active spoiler that had begun to attract attention became the center of attention. On a straight line, the car's behavior showed a notable reduction in resistance. The transition between modes showed no obvious instability. And that was the unexpected. Normally, when such a radical system is introduced, the compromise appears in the form of vibrations, pressure losses, or imbalances during braking. In this case, the SF26 appeared to maintain dynamic coherence. That consistency is what really unsettled his rivals. Because it's one thing to present a striking innovation, it is quite another for it to work without visible penalties in a demanding test environment. Ferrari wasn't just testing an idea, it was showing that it could integrate it into a complete racing program. There was a moment of tension when the car returned to the pits for a technical inspection that affected the middle zone. For a few minutes, the silence in the box contrasted with the frenetic activity of the engineers. It was the kind of moment that can confirm suspicions about structural fragility. But the SF26 returned to the runway, and he returned to complete the plan. That continuity was more important than any fast lap. As the afternoon progressed, Ferrari included more specific procedures. Simulated starts, long sequences with high fuel, and comparative analyses between power maps. And here appears the second unexpected element of the day: the consistency of the pace in the race load. There was no abrupt drop in performance. There was no runaway degradation. The car remained within a constant competitive range, suggesting that aerodynamic efficiency did not depend exclusively on ideal conditions. As the SF26 racked up mileage without showing any obvious cracks in its aerodynamic concept, it began to change the conversation in rival garages. Until that point, the dominant narrative revolved around who was hiding performance and who was showing cards early. But Ferrari introduced a different variable: visible innovation and sustained performance at the same time. That breaks the traditional script of the test. The active rear spoiler was not just a flashy solution. It was a technical statement. In a regulation where active aerodynamics opens up new gray areas, Ferrari decided to explore the limit from the first moment. And he did so without apparent immediate penalties. That combination of conceptual aggressiveness plus dynamic stability is what transforms a good day of testing into an unexpected result. The really important thing was not that the system reduced resistance on the straight line. The important thing was that the car did not become unpredictable when recovering load. In technical terms, that means deep integration between aerodynamics, suspension, and energy management. It is not an isolated piece functioning, but rather a complete ecosystem that responds coherently. And that suggests that development is not improvised but structural. Meanwhile, Ferrari did not alter its program to seek headlines. He continued with long runs, continued with comparative analysis, continued working as if nothing extraordinary was happening. But precisely that normality was the strongest signal. When a team can introduce something radical and continue with its plan without dramatic deviations, it is because it trusts its technical foundation. Here the second level of impact appears, the political. In modern Formula One, when an innovative concept works from the first moment, the reaction is not only technical, it is strategic. Rivals are beginning to assess whether that development can be replicated, whether there is room for future protests, or whether the FIA will have to clarify interpretations. And although on day 2 there were no public confrontations, there were long glances in the pit lane. Ferrari turned a day of testing into a pressure point. He did not need grandiose statements or explosive qualifying laps. It was enough to complete the program without critical failures and stay competitive in pace. That changes the focus. It is no longer just a question of who is faster on a lap, but of who has better understood the new technical era. In addition, there is a key detail that reinforces the unexpectedness of the result. The SF26 did not show obvious signs of uncontrolled degradation at high fuel load. If the active system had generated aerodynamic imbalances in long phases, the day would have been very different. But it didn't happen. The car remained consistent over long stints, suggesting that efficiency is not solely dependent on specific conditions. And this is where day 2 stops being an anecdote and starts being a warning. Because if Ferrari manages to combine aggressive aerodynamic innovation with structural stability and consistency in race pace, then the unexpected result is not an isolated peak, it is a sign of a trend. The unexpected result was not that the SF26 was at the top of the table. What was unexpected was the combination of factors: aggressive innovation, structural stability, solid mileage, and constant pace on long runs. Normally, when a team risks so much in aerodynamics, it pays a price in reliability or consistency. It didn't happen here. And that is what transforms a surprise into a real threat. At this point in the second week, many teams were still defining adjustment windows and understanding basic behavior of the car. Ferrari, on the other hand, seemed to be fine-tuning details. That phase difference is enormous. It means that they are not looking for initial balance, but rather optimizing a package that they already consider functional. And when that happens in the preseason, the margin of reaction for rivals is drastically reduced. Furthermore, the psychological impact is undeniable. In the paddock, perception matters as much as data. If a team shows something radical and also backs it up with consistent pace, it forces others to question their own technical direction. Are we on the right path? Have we been too conservative? Is there an interpretation of the regulation that we are not exploiting? Those doubts are beginning to set in. What happened on this day too also redefines the concept of hiding performance. Ferrari did not need to hide anything. He showed a key part of his technical philosophy and still didn't seem to be over the edge. That suggests there may still be additional undisclosed margin. And that is the most disturbing part. If we project only what we saw this day, the conclusion is clear. SF26 is not a risky early-stage experiment. It is a structured project that has already passed its first major public test. The active aerodynamic package did not collapse under pressure. The car showed no breakdown on long runs, and the program was completed with discipline. And that's what was truly unexpected. Not that they were fast, but that they seemed smart. Week 2 in Bahrain, day 2, wasn't the most spectacular day in terms of explosive headlines, but it may have been the most important of the entire preseason. Because here we are not talking about a magic lap or a timetable inflated by low fuel. We talk about coherence. We talk about technical integration. We're talking about a team that took a radical idea to the track and made it work under real conditions. Ferrari didn't just rack up mileage. It validated a concept. He not only tested an aerodynamic innovation, he integrated it into a complete program without the car collapsing in long runs or showing symptoms of structural fragility. And that is what makes this result truly unexpected. In preseason, it is common to see promises that generate excitement but also doubts. Here we saw something different. We saw confirmations. The SF26 did not seem like a project in the experimental phase, but rather a technical platform that has already passed its first major public test. The active spoiler was not a curiosity, it was a statement. And the most disturbing thing for its rivals is that Ferrari did not seem to be at its limit. This day too left a clear feeling in the paddock. Ferrari is not reacting to the new technical era, it is interpreting it with aggressiveness and conviction. And when a team combines innovation, stability, and consistency of pace in the same journey, the message is impossible to ignore. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.